The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, welcome to the Mind, Body, Spirit show. Today, I think you'll find it very interesting because it's about healthy, happy, and great children. We don't know what to feed them, and there's a lot of confusion out there, I think. But I will review the whole thing for you today, and also hold up some books you might like to read, because a lot of us have a newborn. We don't know a lot about what would make them healthy. We think we know, but we may not know. So let me start out in the beginning. Fetal development. You know, you've got a sperm and an egg, and now you're pregnant. And what a lot of people do not know, I didn't know, but I'll tell you now, that the genetic script of that infant, genetic script, has only been written about 5%. Yeah, 95% of what will happen to that child will be determined as to what you do and throughout the pregnancy and right away afterwards. Yes, 95% of the genetic script you could help write for your infant. For example, now that you're pregnant, if you're using drugs, if you're smoking, using narcotics, drinking a lot of alcohol will affect the infant in your uterus. Yeah, it will affect their genetic expression. Chromosomes at the end, we have these chromosomes that determine genetic structure, but they have at the end of them telomeres, extensions, and you can help write that script by what you do, whether, for example, you're listening to a lot of music, whether you're singing to the child in the uterus. That's called a Mozart effect, okay? So if you're singing songs, or there's happy noises in your place of living, that affects your child. Yeah, and especially at about 3 to 4 months of age when they're in the home, but also the hearing of the infant is really the first thing that develops at about 3 months of uterine development. The ears are there, and they can hear sounds, and you will be writing the genetic script of your infant. Is it a happy home? Is it a sad home? Always arguments. Are you drinking a lot of alcohol, smoking things, taking narcotics? You're writing the genetic script of the child. It will determine abnormalities. If you're drinking a lot of alcohol, they can be born with a small brain and they'll be retarded all their life. Never have a job and maybe have to live somewhere else. Yes, so it's extremely important that you matter of fact, if you take our gene structure, the script that we write, and stretch it out, it would stretch all the way to the moon. Yes, yes. And then if you're changing it through what's called epigenetics, something they discovered in the last few years, will determine what happens to your child. So they can hear the noises. The ears have one of the first things that develop. In about 6 months, the child can react to what they're hearing and actually begin to move and almost dance in the uterus about what they're hearing. Another thing that's very interesting is that is it going to be a natural birth where the baby is delivered through the vagina, or are you going to have a C-section where it never goes through the vagina and it's born through surgery? About 50, 60, almost 70% of the people decide on C-section. What they don't tell a lot of people, because the rate wouldn't be that high if they knew. When the child is naturally born, its head goes through the vagina and its face is painted with the bacteria and viruses that are located there, and they will then start growing in the gut of the child. And that's very important because that helps determine how they metabolize the milk or the food that the child may be eating as soon as it's born. And if those bacteria are not there from the vagina because you had a C-section, you will not have the gut bacteria that are needed for digestion, and the child, and those children who've had C-sections have a lot of ear infections. Meniere's disease is almost totally seen in C-section babies. A lot of vertigo, a lot of ear infections, a lot of throat infections, a lot of asthma is found in the children who've had C-sections. See, I think most people who have a C-section, they don't listen to that, how they can affect the baby. And so the baby's gut is not fully developed till about 3 months of age. And if you're starting with lack of Bacteroides and Firmicutes in your gut, you develop a different type of bacterial set, and that can affect illnesses. And also, let's talk a minute about mother's milk. You know, mother can produce milk for maybe even up to 2 years or so. A lot of people quit at about 3 months, 6 months, and they start using the milk from cows. But you need to read a book by Joe Keon. Joe Keon, called Whitewash. Whitewash, Joe Keon. Once you have read that book, I don't have that with me here today. I gave it to somebody else today. And you realize cow's milk is not a healthy thing. Mother's milk is very healthy. It's a different kind of a fat. Omega-3 fats, which are really good for you. Cow's milk. Let me tell you what they do with the cow. When the baby cow is born, okay, they inject it with a growth hormone. And it grows very quickly, and they put it in a cage. And the reason they do that, industry is trying to increase the production of milk, and it increases about 10 times. Then they put the baby in a cage, and it grows very quickly, and never let it out in the pasture. They put herbicides and pesticides and growth hormone on it, and they milk the milk, and then you give it to your child. What do you think is going to happen to that child that drinks cow's milk? That child is receiving all those hormones and pesticides and herbicides, and it will, because these cows are fat, and there's a lot of estrogen in the milk. Matter of fact, there's many hormones in the milk because of what they do to the cow, and you're giving it to your child. Those hormones will be absorbed because it's drinking that milk, and the casein, the protein in milk, increases cancer rates. You give cow's milk to your child, cancer rates go up. In children, in infants. You may lose your child. Read that book, Joe Keon, Whitewash. Once you read that, I don't think you'll be giving cow's milk to your child. The other thing too is, how do they feed them? Now they feed them in troughs going by, and they add things so the cow will eat more and grow bigger and produce more milk. It's a horrible story, actually. And as the child is growing too, you have to pay attention to the tooth development, because a lot of the bacteria hang out in the teeth. And they love to eat mother's milk and sugary drinks. If you're giving sugary drinks to your child, the bacteria love it. They grow big in your gums, and they can spread to the brain, they can spread to the heart. So you're increasing the illnesses a child will have. So let's talk about a minute. For example, sugar is not good for the child, because bacteria in the mouth love sugar, and they will increase the disease. They will erode the enamel. Like Queen Elizabeth, I'll show you up a picture here. If you can see it, she had no teeth. Look it up in history. Google it. Queen Elizabeth picture. Boom, it'll show up for you. She had no teeth. A lot of the queens had no teeth because sugar was expensive years ago, and very expensive. Only the rich could afford it. So they ate a lot of little sugar cubes because it made them feel great. Sugar makes you feel good. You don't have it, but it makes you sick. And that's the reason we have so many overweight people today, because they're eating so much sugar. And if you addict your child to sugar to begin with, the child will probably be overweight, have a lot of illnesses. So encourage the child to brush their teeth at a very young age. First, they have teeth that will fall out by age 6 or so, and then the permanent teeth come in. But a child should at least brush their teeth at least twice a day in a circular pattern, which is a safer way while hurting the teeth. Another thing, and to do it after each meal, to brush the teeth after each meal and before you go to bed. I didn't know that till I was in college. My parents didn't tell me, so I had trouble with my teeth all the time. Yeah, and I lost some teeth over that, which fortunately I kept most of them. But to teach your child to brush teeth, and a better way before they go to bed at night is to do some flossing. We take a little string between the teeth and to get rid of the plaque, the accumulation of bacterial infection, and you floss and you brush them. And if you can give your child healthy teeth, they will avoid a lot of disease, and you'll avoid a lot of cost, because it's not cheap to go to the dentist. What chemicals are important? Well, my child doesn't get the calcium it needs if it don't drink milk. Well, we now found out, actually, you can get plenty of calcium from food, from vegetables and cheeses, and you don't have to drink milk to get that. Fluoride, they found, is a chemical that will kill bacteria in there, and that's now in toothpaste. Okay, and vitamin B and vitamin C. I tell you a good way to take vitamin C. What I do is cut an orange in half and then I eat it, so it's not orange juice. If it's just juice, it's high sugar. But if you eat it still with the fiber in it, it's much more healthy. I do that every day, and take the child maybe to the dentist a couple of times a year, so you can instruct the child and see how things are going. Occasionally they'll take an x-ray, make sure that the outside of the tooth, the enamel has not been eroded, it's not infected, to have the dentist look at it. So to have proper teeth is extremely important to avoid tooth decay. It causes many diseases. I encourage you to teach the children to brush and floss their teeth. I also like to mention to the children the importance of vaccination, to get your shots to avoid these viral or bacterial diseases. It's extremely important. I mean, we know people who don't get vaccinated, they're alive because the people who did get vaccinated. You're much more likely to die or become disabled if you don't get vaccinated. Can you imagine not getting your children vaccinated and they get polio and they're paralyzed all their life, and you are responsible because you are the parent who didn't get the child vaccinated? I know of parents who have all these conspiracy theories not to get their children vaccinated, even the Coronavirus virus, that people that died are the ones who did not brush their teeth, who had diabetes. 90% of the people died from the virus, from the virus, had some chronic illness, complication of diabetes. They now find out that children are getting diabetes. Yeah, Joseph Kraft wrote a book. He studied all that years ago, 20 years. That's been known for years, but healthcare providers and dentists don't let you know because they make their money off the sick people. I'm talking about prevention here today. So getting vaccinated is very important. Incidentally, the viruses are sugar feeders. They don't have a metabolic system. I don't know many people that really knew that, but that is, just Google it. Viruses, metabolic system. They have to enter an animal or human cell, steal the sugar to multiply and stay alive. Yeah, it's true. So, but a lot of people do not know, because we can be harming our children. I wrote a book a few years ago. It's sort of a brutal name, but harming and killing our children. We are indeed, as parents, harming our children if we don't watch it. If we don't, for example, drinking a lot of alcohol, we can have anomalies in our children in the uterus. We're writing the genetic script of the child in the uterus, and they may be born with a small brain or paralyzed arm or cerebral palsy, all due to what we are doing. What we are doing. You must set an example for the child. And we smoke, for example, well, the child will breathe in the smoke, even if it's in the uterus or not in the uterus. So if there's smoke throughout the house, you're going to make your child sick, and you are indeed responsible. And the importance, as I mentioned, mother's milk has the good fats, will make the child a lot more healthier than if you feed it the milk from a cow full of hormones and growth hormones, and you can give your child cancer. So smoking, drinking narcotics, if you're taking narcotics, you will affect the child. And when they are born, they will have abnormalities because of the drugs that you took, okay? So it's very important to read this book, Harming and Killing Our Children, which I wrote years ago. At the end, also, I have in there a code of behavior, 20 prescriptions that lead to a good life. Something that is posted around town with the Boys and Girls Club, and I've been trying to get into the schools, but they don't seem, but make your child memorize them. You can find them in the wall of the Boys and Girls Club. You can find them in front of the Criminal Justice Building for Children on Wall Street on a statue. Is that which I paid for, that posted on there. Or you can get it out of my book called The Call of Life, which are written my 20 prescriptions, which are will teach your child to be a good child. We're talking about great children, for example. Let me just read a couple to you, not all 20. Treat others as you like to be treated. Be honest, do not lie, cheat, or steal, and make your word your bond. You know, code of behavior for children. Post them on the wall in the house. I have some parents that did that, and their kids are good, and they really appreciate that. I've been trying, like I said, to get this into the schools, and that they would, as a matter of fact, I met with the head of the school of Allen County last night, and he liked the idea. And how do you teach it to children? One way might be through music. So I'm going to work on taking these 20 prescriptions and have kids, different races, boys and girls, maybe sing and dance to them, a way of teaching children. It's kind of interesting, and I think that has some possibilities. And now I'd like to mention to you a little bit too, is we have about 400 million guns in the house, and we, you know, when you look at the news lately, people are getting shot and injured, and the police do it, and the public does it, and we have a lot of, I think we need to, personally, I think we need to change the culture in this country. It's not just the police, it's us too. Years ago, I went to the head of chief of police, I think it was Captain York, and he knew me and he liked me. I said, Captain, why don't you consider this, that if a policeman and a citizen meet, that the policeman say to citizen, say, citizen, sir or ma'am, whatever, and the citizen says, officer, sir or ma'am, whether it's a man or woman. So they show some respect right off the bat, no matter what they did, unless they get a gun in their hand. We need to change that culture. I think I write a book about that. All the other things we could do in laws, and you got to do this, got to do that. That's fine. That's fine. But I think we need to have a different culture in this country, a less violent culture. And I think it can be done. And if a gun is in the house, incidentally, if a gun is in the house, there's a possibility that a child in your house will get it and kill somebody or themselves. 4 children a day die of an accident and gunshot because there was a gun in the house. So did I say anything against guns? No. But I say this, if you have a gun in the house, you better lock it up and real good, and you be the only one who knows how to get into it, because your kid gets into it because they don't know. They're children. They don't know the danger many times. And 4 children die a day from guns. So look into that a little bit. And we have sudden infant death syndrome called SIDS. And we're not all sure what it's due to, but children sleeping face down first year of their life can be found. You go in there, look, and they're dead. Mm-hmm. You got to know about SIDS. Look it up, you know, on the internet. This doesn't happen, but it's more likely to happen if you're drinking or smoking or taking drugs, because if you hear the child making some noise and fussing and you don't hear it and you don't go check on them, they are definitely more likely to die, and it does indeed happens. Okay, and then we have FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome. If we're drinking and the child's still in the uterus, the alcohol will hit the brain of the infant and shrink and hurt the brain, and the child may be born with a small brain and be retarded, and have a horrible life, and it may be because you're drinking too much. If you're pregnant, you should not smoke, not drink, not take drugs, because remember, it affects the person living in there. Dr. Joel Fuhrman wrote a book called Disease Proof Your Child. A good book to read. Dr. Fuhrman really studies nutrition, so I think, and I like his books, and he has come with some of the things he recommends. Don't eat unprocessed food. Eat unprocessed food. They are the key to optimal health. If eating processed food, which is like going to fast food restaurants, our fast food restaurants have spread to China and India, and they have developed a very unhealthy nation. And now Russia had them also, and they just kicked all the fast food restaurants out of there because they're American. They found out that people were so addicted to the sugar, they had to develop those restaurants themselves. So processed food, which is food that has removed the coverings, which is the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals that you need from them, and then we're eating. America is eating a lot of them, because if you just look around, you see very many unhealthy people. If you're looking at someone that weighs more than they should, or they get a pot belly, odds are they get diabetes, 99% chance, and that is associated with it about 50 diseases, which I treat, from heart attacks to strokes to dementia, kidney disease, renal transplants, amputations, dislocations, all can be avoided. And also, you need healthy food with vitamins and minerals like folate. If your infant in the uterus doesn't get folate, for example, which is found in vegetables and beans and fruits, they can have an abnormality of neural tube development, and they're born paralyzed. Legs aren't moving, arms and legs may not be moving, all variations, okay? And the child is more likely to develop cancer, and the most common one in children would be acute lymphocytic leukemia, ALL. It's the most common childhood cancer, ALL, but it's greatly related to what the child is eating or what you are consuming, okay? And it's due to lack of phytonutrients, minerals, phytonutrients, which now we've discovered maybe 150, but there's probably 300-400, and but without those nutrients, the child can be in poor health. I always tell you what your blood tests are, and even children should be checked. I notice the pediatricians don't run much blood sugar studies on children, but type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes can be found at a very young age, and we should be checking the critical test is serum insulin. Not the blood sugar is important, but a serum insulin is elevated many years before the blood sugar is elevated. We diagnose diabetes when the blood sugar is elevated, when we could be diagnosing it when the insulin is elevated, and we could avoid advancement of this. They have found, like the Korean and Vietnam's war, when the people died, we autopsied the enemy as well as the Vietnamese, the Koreans, the Americans. It was the Americans they found many streaks throughout the vasculatures, many abnormalities, even some cancers. When the enemies died, they autopsied them too, but they were free of disease. They're eating different kind of food is what it is. We've allowed our fast food companies to sell their products to our Army personnel, for example. You could buy a Coke for $5. I think it's Second World War, First World War, and they managed to addict the soldiers to sugar. Sugar is highly addictive. Some people think it's more addictive than cocaine. I debated that once with another lady, and I think she was thinking that sugar was more addictive. I think that it is. And so fake foods, which is what they sell a lot in fast food restaurants, like vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals. So there's a genetic component to disease. Our genes express it, but like breast cancer, it's only about 3 or 4% is genetic. Mm-hmm. The rest is what we're eating and drinking. Breast cancer is 80% a nutrition disease, a sugar disease. Yet we take all the money that we collect to Vera Bradley, we send it all to Indianapolis, but it's determined breast cancer really is about 50 to 100 genes affect breast cancer. What are you going to prescribe? 50 or 100 drugs? So I say prevention is the cure, okay? But a lot of cancers are different. There are a couple of cancers where it's only one gene, but those are rare. The majority is multiple genes for cancer you have to have, and that's by nutrition and vitamins and minerals determine that. Heart disease is something fairly recent, only about 2% in China. The China study proved that. But in the U.S., heart disease rates are much higher because we have so many type 2 diabetics. Most diseases are caused by insulin. So insulin testing is important, even if you have a child. Get a serum insulin test. Just the blood sugar is what our pediatricians are ordering most of the time. It's not enough. HbA1c, which is 3 months of blood sugar, is important. But the level of insulin would catch disease in your child or yourself 10, 15 years before it manifests. Yes, that's in many books. So it turns out, for 50 years they told us it's the fat we're eating. Is the fat, the bad fats, they're good fats, the smart fats, and bad fats. We know the difference. If you don't know the difference, learn the difference. But the sugar is the main problem. Is the main problem. So some secrets to getting your children to eat healthy. Okay. Keep only healthy foods in the house. That's a good one. When I think back about raising my kids, and but offer and feed them a diversity of different foods and give a choice. But you must demonstrate for them, you must look healthy yourself. If you look unhealthy, odds of your child being unhealthy, 70%. 70%. Yeah. If you're overweight, husband's overweight, odds are the children will be overweight, about 80% chance. They will die young. They will have years of disability. They will suffer a lot. They notice that especially out west, at Loma Linda University, for example, close to where the culture is totally different. There's one district that dying in the 60s and the 70s. Their children are dying young and they're suffering, versus the Seventh-day Adventists who are eating mainly foods, vegetarian. I'm not recommending just vegetarian or one or the other, but if you're eating largely vegetables, that is healthier. I actually teach Rudy's Ketone 16-8 to eat 50-70% good fats, not bad fats, good fats. That's in my books. I have a book now on another book on Amazon, Prevention is the Cure. Rudy's War on Diabetes, there's a chapter on that explaining that. So it's not just vegetables, but the Seventh-day Adventists live on the average 10 years longer than most people. Yeah, they look healthy, their children look healthy, they avoid most diseases. And when you deal with your children, don't manage their calorie intake. Let them eat as much as they want of their proper food, okay? And but as I mentioned, again, as a parent, demonstrate to them, you do, so they can watch you as they're growing up. They're more likely to do what you're doing. What I did for years, but I couldn't keep it up because as a neurosurgeon I got busier and busier, but I used to eat at least one meal with the whole family sitting at the table. It was the evening meal. When I would come home, even if I had to work into the night, I'd take a break, go to the house, we all sit at the table, then I had everybody at the table go around and tell what went on in their day, so that was psychologically relaxing. We were demonstrating what the correct food was. I was and the wife were eating the right food, and the kids copied that. Mark Hyman has written many famous nutrition books. I mean, fantastic man. I noticed in this book he mentions the evening meal. He comes home, they wait for him. No one cooks. No one even cooks till he's home. He's home. He lays all the things out. The kids look at it. They all cook. The wife and him and the children cook the evening meal together. The children are learning to cook. So to teach your child to cook is critical, as long as you're teaching them the right thing. But just to go together and eat in a fast food restaurant is a very poor demonstration and not good for the health. So, and educate your children about nutritional needs, okay? And start them young. Start them at a young age. Our brain is a lot more impressionable at a young age, and the brain is not fully developed. So the Mozart effect. The kids, what they can pick up, what their brain will absorb, what brain cells will grow. The brain expansion occurs at a young age, till age 25 or so, but it's much more growth occurring age 2, 3, or 4. So the kids, if you teach them, have them sit there and watch you cook, they absorb that. They're much more likely to do it. Again, it's not just music that makes the brain grow. It's other things that you are teaching them, and get that serum insulin in your child. No doctor will tell you that. Insulin. Get the insulin test. Put it in a log. Put it in a computer. Put it in a book. It's up to you. Keep track and see what's happening. If all of a sudden it's starting to rise, you know your child is metabolically unhealthy. It's eating the wrong food. Maybe it's eating food you don't know about. Okay, and but a child's body can give you the signal. If you see the child gaining a lot of weight, you got to say, wait a minute, is it drinking a lot of pops I don't know about? Is it eating the wrong food? Sugary drinks are out of the house. You don't want them in the house. Sugary drinks full of sugar. If you're an obese child, have them drink all the sugary drinks they want. You will have an obese child. Or you yourself may be buying. Now they supersize everything. Now they get the big bottles. When I go to one of the markets, I think I go to Kroger's, and I'm paying, and I'm watching the people who are paying. And you can match the drinks with the person doing the paying. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but that's the way it is. They're drinking a lot of sugar, and their body's going like that. And And part of the reason is, as the sugar level goes up, our insulin level goes up, because sugar has to stuff, insulin has to stuff the sugar into the cell, and the cell goes like that. What do you think is going to happen to you? You give a shot of insulin in the arm, and it raises up. So there's a scam going on there with people do not know these things. That's the reason I have these shows here, okay? So the most important thing is the food that is in the house. How much is any alcohol there? Are there cigarettes there? Is there marijuana there? A lot of kids are smoking marijuana now. Their brain is not fully developed till age 25 or so. And if you're drinking marijuana, that increases your taste for sugar. They start getting a pot belly. They can have early diabetes. You can destroy a child. They found children that smoke marijuana, which is a pretty good rate going on now, maybe around 18-20% or so, is that their brain development will be reduced to about 1 grade on average. Yeah, 1 grade on average, and a tremendous effects on the brain. And but a child can do a signal. Look at them. But if you yourself are overweight, unhealthy, and you're smoking, you're drinking, one thing to consider at a very young age, if they can get used to it, which is really a very healthy way, is to do 2 meals a day. Mm-hmm. If you could establish that in your family, you will probably have a very healthy family. I do that. And there are good chapters in my books on fasting. You just go to Amazon books, Rudy's War on Diabetes. There's a good chapter on that. And I do 16-8. I don't eat till around noon or so. And the reason you can do that, it's easy, is that through circadian rhythm, that's the rhythm, the 24-hour rhythm of your body, okay? As day is approaching, your body will secrete growth hormone, glucagon, and some steroids, and they will raise your blood sugar up, and your blood sugar is very level. Because it's level like that, I don't get hungry. I'm not hungry at all. It may take a week or 10 days to get used to it, but man, that really works. And then around 11 or 12, eat all you want. And if they've actually shown now, and then the other meal in about 6 to 8 hours, in that 8-hour period, you almost don't need to watch what type of food you're eating, because that fasting time, your body repairs itself through autophagia. It sends out the bad cells, brings in the good cells, and you can be very healthy. But if that doesn't seem to work for you, then at least eat one of the 2 meals good of say, protein, not sugary, protein, good fats, 50, 70, 80%, guacamole and peppers, and you can find a whole list and chapters in my books, the good fats, the bad fats. You'll be very healthy. Your normal weight, you'll raise children that look great. The best thing, of course, we're all interested in how we look a little bit, okay? And especially girls, of course, but guys do too. So if they're eating 2 meals a day and eating sort of 50, 70% good fats, 20% protein, 15% fruits and vegetables, you want to eat a lot of fruits. That's sugar. That's the reason, remember I said, there's a little debate going on between the high vegetable, high fruit diets versus the ketone, the good fats. The science changes, and I change with it, and my teaching changes a little bit. So to not go into a ketone type thing, which makes it easier and quicker, you're going to be fairly healthy. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, wonderful mayor, had diabetes while he was still a policeman and county councilman before he became a mayor, developed diabetes. And he wrote an excellent book that would be worth reading. And it's mainly a vegetable way of eating. And that works, but I notice in the book he mentions a lot about saturated fats not being good. He's wrong about that. Saturated fats actually are good for you, okay? There are bad fats, and you get to learn what are the good fats, what are the bad fats, the smart fats, okay? And you have to learn that. And so fasting makes it a lot easier. But you got to be able to tell what's regular hunger, what's toxic hunger. Toxic hunger, where you just got to have something to eat. Headaches, fatigue, nausea, weakness, belly pain, mental confusion. That's toxic hunger. You don't want to react to that. But parenting your child and teaching them to cook, teach them around the kitchen, that is critical. But you have to have an example. The house has to be an example. You can't smell from the smoke when everybody's drinking alcohol all the time and eating bad food. So teach them to cook. Take them shopping. Take them with you to go shopping. And incidentally, Aldi's supermarket was voted the best supermarket in the country. I'm not surprised. And you can buy things there, and you say, well, good food is more expensive. If you go shop at Aldi's and you buy in quantity, you'll find out actually it's not more expensive. And it's good to know what market are you going to, and remember the sugary foods are sort of in the middle. The good foods are on the outside. You got to learn. You have to learn this, and you got to learn to read label. I would say this though: if it's got a label, you don't want it. You want to eat fresh fruit, and eat healthy food in the house 90% of the time. In the restaurants, a lot of times they've had things sprayed on them, and it's unhealthy. Although you can eat out, but you have to kind of watch and talk to the waiter. And see what you're ordering. And which is healthier, vegetarian, vegan, omnivore, which is vegetarian and meat. Did I say no meat? No. What I said, you have to learn what good meat is. A lot of the meat is made in meat factories now, where the animal is eating at a trough, and they feed it corn, high fructose corn syrup. And they add chemicals to it. And what the animal eats is what you eat. They're feeding it corn, you're eating corn. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, you got to pay attention. What did that animal eat? And if you eat that animal, that's what you're eating. So be aware, okay? And so a vegan eats mainly plants, no dairy or eggs. I'm not recommending that you just be a vegan, and you still got to pay attention if you're just a vegan when they sell it to you, because they may have sprayed it. It may be an apple that looks just beautiful, and you want to eat it. Oh, it tastes so delicious. Well, it may have been picked green in California, sprayed in Arizona, looks beautiful. Now you eat it. So what are you eating? The spray. So ask questions. Okay. Vegetarian will not eat animals. Okay. But you can say yes or no to dairy and eggs. You want to eat some? Eggs actually are healthy for you. Has good protein, and you say, well, it's got cholesterol. Well, the cholesterol theory of disease has pretty much been kicked out. They were prescribed statin drugs, about 6 or 7 different names, and the industry was making $35 billion a year, and they convinced all of us that you needed to lower the cholesterol theory of disease. Well, come to find out, every cell in your body has cholesterol in the covering of it. lot of our brain works on cholesterol. So taking cholesterol drugs, statin drugs, can be very dangerous. You need to gather some information. The Dark Side of Statins, Toxic Effects of Statins by Evans. Our book's this thick. I just gave it to somebody today. Read them, because we doctors fell for it too. Yeah. I know some hospitals in town, 80% of the cardiac patients are on statin drugs. The statin drug may have formed the disease. You need to participate in your health care. I know a lot about that, okay? So what am I? I'm omnivore. I'm eating 60, 70% good fats, 20% protein. But if we've taken so much protein because we want to build big muscles, I tell you what happens. Your body already knows how much protein it needs. 80% is recycled in your body. Only 20% it takes from what you're taking in. If you take more protein than your body needs, it's converted to sugar. It'll make you fat. Yeah. So a lot of these bodybuilders taking all these supplements and eating meat 7 days a week. This gets bigger, odds are it's fat. Mm-hmm. Especially as we get older, we can lift all the weights you want. It's good for you. Can be good for you. But if you're bulking up, it's not your workout that's doing it. It probably is fat. It probably is fat. Something you kind of need to know about a little bit. And he has a great book. I like to, because we all can have problems with that. How to Raise a Drug-Free Kid. Joe Califano. This is a wonderful book. A wonderful book. I encourage you highly to read this if you have kids at home, because they're exposed to so much exposure to it. There's people in Mexico, South America coming in sending fentanyl, and they don't know what the dosage, and kids are dying all over the country. So to be informed about that. And so I took a little bit of stuff out of the book, but I want you to read the book itself. Early on, establish an open dialogue about your child, about vaping, for example, taking drugs, what they do to you, alcohol, cigarettes. Make your expectations about substance use clear to your children so they know how you feel. Of course, you can't just smoke in front of them if you're taking drugs and tell your kid not to do that. Well, that ain't going to work. You've got to demonstrate, okay? So make talking with your children about substance abuse a natural event. Like you do it once a month for something, bring it up, different ages, have them get used to it, make sure they're listening. And when discussing alcohol and other drugs, be honest and focus. Maybe have them look at a YouTube show with you, but it has to be appropriate for the age. Can't be a 3-year-old and you're talking in a language they don't understand. And we've learned a lot more about drugs over the years, and let them know that. And and hook them to news events that educating people, but be perfectly honest. But teach your child to be a friend, and teach it if they have a problem. And if they need counseling, well, get some counseling. Every family is invaded by drugs. My family was, other families are. It took us to recognize it. And that's not easy. And no one taught you that, but I'm teaching you that today. To read How to Raise a Drug-Free Child by Califano, I think every parent should do that. And he was head of drugs in this country when he was working full time. He's very knowledgeable. And one of the few government agencies that did its job. Their job is to prevent things, and he did. And he did. So sometimes you need to look at your kid and you kind of wonder, are you drinking? Are you taking drugs? Just face them straight on. Catch them when they're half asleep, and maybe they tell you the truth. And show them this book too. And if the child does have a problem, that even is a book which I have at home, the 12 steps for alcoholism, for children. Yeah, 1 through 12, grades 1 through 12. It's a great book. I have that at home. You can pull it up from the internet. In terms of illnesses, get a healthier weight for your child is critical. Can be a huge problem. If they're way overweight and they're a kid, that has to be dealt with because they're going to die young. They're going to be disabled. People will be hard to hire them. They'll be tough to get friends. And if you get a serum insulin, it will tell you the urgency. If that's way elevated, they're diabetic. They're going to get chronic disease at a young age. They're going to have kidney disease at a young age. Get a GFR to see if they got kidney disease already. The first 3 stages of kidney disease, the kidney medical group has not told people you need to know what your GFR is. I know you need to know what your blood sugar is, what your serum insulin is, but know what your GFR is, because once you're stage 4 or 5, you need dialysis, kidney transplant, you'll be dead in 5 years. Odds are. Mm-hmm. I want you to avoid that, okay? So, so how serious is the overweight problem? It's headline news. You sit in a restaurant and like I did the other day, and you watch the people come in and sit down, and especially some restaurants are worse than others, and they're all overweight. Okay, I was eating at a Bob Evans. Great, I think there's a great selection of food in there, and I just watched the people sit down, and it's just unbelievable, because usually it's a match: a wife, husband, children, and they all got a weight problem. Okay, and so part of the reason is to go after this is that it affects the self-esteem of the person, adult or children, okay? It affects the energy balance. Genetics may play a role, but it's small. It's what the eating is a big thing. So sort of to summarize here a little bit, I would like for you to do some reading and set a good example. Here's another book, Feed Your Kids Well, by Fred Pescatore. He covers the subject really well, but we must gather some information. Maybe read my Call of Life book, because it teaches a code of behavior, and will. And I know if people will have their children memorize the darn thing, and they're going to be better people. People walk up to me all the time and say, my kids have your 20 prescriptions memorized. I have others walk up to me and say, you can go to YouTube. I've got probably 500 to 700 YouTube shows in there, all aspects of health, from children to adults, from smoking to narcotics. Even the country of India contacted me a month ago. They wanted my permission to use my YouTube shows, and they would translate them into other languages and dialects and send them out to their people, because they're having so much trouble with diabetes and the complications therefrom. They can't afford to pay for it. They want to prevent it. If that isn't something, And of course, our public health system in this county needs to be improved. Is the hospital system is controlling it. The head of public health is part of the hospital system, and they have you surrounded. The patient is surrounded because they want to treat illness. So to hire a guy to public health to be the prevention people, I think they could have found one independent of this system, which is choking off the patient. I know because I really studied it in my book on Amazon, Rudy's War on Diabetes, and the industry that created it shows the encircling of the patient. And I would like you to maybe look at that or read about it. So I'm sending the information out to you, and I'm not mincing words here, but 2,000 books in my basement, so I think I know what I'm talking about. Thanks for watching my show. Look at my YouTube shows, and we'll make you healthy, happy, great kids, live to be 100 free of disease, play pickleball with me or tap dance as life goes on. Thank you for watching the show. We love you. That's why we do it. I'm a doctor after all. Bye-bye.